Guys, welcome back. It is Racerx, and I am here with my good buddies actually at the Lewisville Autoplex. You don't see me film over here very often, but today it's rainy, it's crappy outside, so I figured, you know what, let me stop in with my buddies over here in Lewisville and show you not only some of their really cool inventory, but there's a specific subject that I want to talk about today. As we know, cars are spiking in price right now. Everything is just going nuts, and as I mentioned many times, the automotive world has really been turned on its head. Well, I want to talk a little bit about some of the cars that are out there today that are actually still kind of a good deal, or if you can find any sort of a good deal, some sort of a silver lining, because as we know, it's just so hard to find a decent price on really anything right now, really, regardless of what it is. So obviously they've got some beautiful inventory here, but I do want to talk a little bit about some of the cars out there that can still be had for what I would consider to be a fair price, considering everything happening out there in the marketplace right now. Also, guys, if you are new to my channel, do me a big, gigantic favor, hit that subscribe button. It's right down there at the bottom. Also, if you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified of my new content. You can follow me on Instagram, and we are off. We got the 1,000 horsepower helmet. God. So guys, check out some of the stuff they have here at the Lewisville Autoplex. Yes, this is a sister store to the Hearst Autoplex where I film all the time. I wanted to show you this beautiful blue Challenger Super Stock. This is Frostbite. I have to mention, I am really taken with this car. Not only is it a Super Stock, one of my favorite colors, it's got gray stripes on it. Very rare color combination on this. I absolutely love this car. But I also wanted to check this out. Look at this thing. This is a HELLCAT, no question, a HELLCAT stuffed in a Jeep Wrangler. So I just did the 392 review, but there you see it in the flesh. That is a HELLCAT equipped Wrangler. It's got a special kind of rhino lining on the outside. Reminds me a little bit of that street tank that I drove not too long ago. What a machine that is. And just a couple other pieces of eye candy here. You can see we do have a Taycan, which of course is an electric Porsche, and of course another C8. They have all sorts of beautiful cars here at the Lewisville Autoplex. Guys, look what else I just found. I have to admit, I'm really interested in finding out about this car. My buddy Chris here, who works for Lewisville Autoplex, actually, you guys just got this car in, right, buddy?
Correct.
This is a ZR1.
ZR1.
2010.
2010. It's got a built LSX 7.0 liter with a Pro F1X supercharger.
Oh.
It's capable of 1,700 horsepower. Maxed out the Mustang dyno at 1,500 horsepower.
Oh my gosh. And this is for sale.
This is for sale right here at Lewisville Autoplex.
Holy cow. Look at that. You're right. Yep. Check it out. There's the Pro Charger. This is the kind of stuff they get up here, guys. That's why I love these dealerships, man. So good God, man. So the truth is, if you're looking for a really good deal on a car, now is probably not the best time to buy. I've talked about it before, guys. And the problem is that, you've got so many lots that are just empty. And as we know, demand is still really high, but supply is extremely low. And when that happens, typically as a consumer, you're going to pay a little bit more money or a lot more money, depending upon what that car is. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to do a little bit of research on the cars out there that can still be had for a decent amount. I also want to look at just how much cars have gone up really over the course of the last year. Just spread a little bit of information to you guys. So let's go. Now, I have been sitting here for a while trying to do as much research as I can to try and just make sense out of all this. And there are some really helpful websites such as Auto Trader. You can get on Car Gurus. And these are sites that will literally pull up inventory really across the nation at all sorts of different dealerships, private sellers, all sorts of stuff like that. And you can get a pretty fair look at what really the current market value is for a lot of the vehicles. So I really just want to start off by saying there are some vehicles that are just, it's insane how much they've actually gone up in price. And it's really strange, right? Because typically vehicles are assets that depreciate in value. That's the nature of the beast, right? It's not like home sales or anything like that, or real estate, where sometimes those things actually decrease in value, which is what we're seeing right now. Huge increases in property value in some areas, Texas being one of them. But these cars, some of them have just gone way up in value, even really in the last year. You can see it plain as day. And I've talked to several dealerships about this, and a lot of them had said a lot of these cars have gone up, say, 30% in value in 1 year. As we know, just over a year ago is when this entire pandemic thing hit. And then, like I said, everything just kind of went on its head. So let's start off with the cars that you probably should not even take a look at. Now, before I really get into my list, I just want to kind of mention, obviously, I'm not really concerned with non-performance type cars, right? So the Toyota Camrys of the world, or just the regular SUVs and stuff like that, those, while those are still holding value, I'm really kind of focusing in on what's going on with the performance car market right now. So the first car on my list I want to talk about, and cars that you should definitely steer away from if you're trying to buy, the Dodge Viper. First of all, I'm looking here on Auto Trader, and they're almost impossible to find, period. So if you are a fan of the Viper, as we know, the Viper went away a few years back. They are next to impossible to find. And when you look at the prices, if you do find them, and like I said, they're really hard to find, but you are going to see that they've gone up in value really in the past year as much as 50%. Man, even the Gen 5s, oh my gosh, they've gone way up in value. And even like the Gen 4s, the Gen 3s, it really doesn't even matter what generation Viper it is. They are really expensive right now. So if you're a fan of the Viper, steer clear, at least for now, until those values come down a little bit. Next on my list is the Chevy Corvette. And as we know, there are a lot of different trim levels in the Corvette. But as I do my research on this thing, I got to tell you, it really doesn't seem to matter. The worst ones are certainly the ZR1s. That's sort of the bad daddy that's still out there from a Corvette perspective. They don't have any of the newer trims in the C8. You got the base C8, but no Z06, no Zora, ZR1, anything like that in the near future. But even the C7 ZR1s, they're selling for like $150,000, $160,000 if you can even find them at all. I'm only seeing 3 within 500 miles of my zip code. An incredibly difficult car to find. And when you do find them, 150, 160, they're actually a lot more than they came out even at sticker. And some of these are 2019s. They're 2 years old. That is insane to me. But the C8s, another thing on the C8s. I mean, you typically can't even find a C8 at sticker if you're lucky. Of course, that is the newest Corvette on the block, the mid-engine. Love that car. But a lot of dealerships have a lot of dealer markup on those cars right now. Not a great time to buy a C8 unless you can find a dealership willing to sell you at sticker. They do exist, guys. I've had a lot of comments. They do exist. Classic Chevrolet and Grapevine, for one, is they will sell at sticker price. So you just have to look for it. But still, a very difficult time to buy a Corvette at all. Even the C7 Z06s. I'm seeing on here, they're in the mid 70s, high 80s, even some of these. And even these with 20,000 miles are pretty expensive. The Corvettes have really, really held their value. And we know they typically do. But right now, not a great time to buy a Corvette. If you're going to buy a Corvette, the one to buy is the C7 Stingray, but basically the base version. I'm seeing some pretty good deals on those cars. Not great, but you can get a decent to good deal on one of those still. And maybe something in the $40,000-$50,000 range, depending on mileage, condition, and trim. So, if you're going to buy a Corvette, go with the lower trim levels because the upper trim levels are still really expensive. Next, I want to tackle a couple of different types of cars. So obviously, if you're a Mopar person, you've got the HELLCAT out there. Everybody loves the HELLCAT, of course, myself included. But if you want to buy a HELLCAT, now may not be the best time because whether it's the Super Stock, the Red Eye, or the normal HELLCAT, they all seem to be either at sticker or higher in some instances. So getting a HELLCAT below sticker, even if it's used, I mean, you're almost paying sticker price for HELLCATs right now. Even going back to 2015, some of those cars have actually gone up in value, which is kind of insane to think about. But finding a HELLCAT for what I would consider to be a really good deal right now, pretty hard to do. And luckily they actually have some inventory out there. So if you like HELLCATs, I mean, they're not extremely hard to find. They're just not great buys right now. And also the ZL1 Camaro. My favorite is obviously the ZL1 1LE. I drove that in a manual. I'm on Car Gurus right now. There are almost none of these cars. You can't even find ZL1 1LEs, especially in a manual. They're very rare, and when you do find them, they're actually like right at what the initial sticker was. I'm literally seeing ZL1 1LEs for like in the mid-70s here. I mean, that's what those cars stickered at over 2 years ago. So if you are a ZL1 fan, whether it's a ZL1 1LE or just the regular version, these things are definitely not coming down in value. As we know, the Camaro may even be going away, but for right now, I would steer away from from both ZL1s and HELLCATs. Now, what are the cars to get? You can get like the Scat Packs right now. There aren't a ton of them out there, but you do still find Scat Packs on lots and stuff like that. And while some dealerships are actually charging over sticker, you can still find Scat Packs out there for at sticker or below in some cases, depending on, once again, trim, mileage, things like that. And the same with Camaro SSs. So whether it's like a 1LT version or the SS, you can still find some Camaros out there. The Camaros are a little harder to find than the Dodges are. They just don't have as much inventory. But those are the cars to get right now. So really, once again, the lower trim levels, the SSs and the Scat Packs of the world, those are the ones that aren't the worst buys in the world right now. Like I said, you're never going to get a great deal this time, but you can actually find them out there for a fair deal. Now, if you're a Mustang person, I've got to tell you, it's pretty glaring when you look at all of the inventory that's out there. Certainly, the Mustang GT500 and the Mustang GT350, those are fetching a premium right now and have been for quite a while. For a while, the GT350s were pretty attainable and came down in value, but it seems like those have gone back up, especially for low mileage vehicles. The one you really don't want to go try and find is the 350R. First of all, they didn't make very many of these, and those things, even if they're a couple of years old, are still fetching like as much as like $20,000 or $30,000 over the sticker price. It is insane how hard it is to get a Mustang GT350R. Now is not a good time to buy that car. So now, if you're looking to buy a Mustang, the GTs actually can be had. Now, they just make so many of the Mustang GT, and they're still a fantastic car. As you know, I have a Mustang GT that's being built right now. Great platform, and you can actually find a pretty decent deal on Mustang GTs right now. So it's one of those cars that if you want a performance car, there's still some value in a Mustang GT. And as you look at the used market, while it's not plummeting, there can be some pretty fair deals on Mustang GTs out there. And there's a lot of inventory still on Mustang GTs. And just depends on how you like to outfit them. If you want performance pack 1 or 2, if you want like one more like mine that's got kind of more of a base feel to it. But it just really depends on how you want to set those cars up. But plenty of inventory out there, which means typically, you're going to get a little better deal on the Mustang. Now, I also do want to touch just briefly on something else interesting that I did find. So when you look at like the import cars, things change a little bit when you look at these. Like say, for example, like an M3 or an M4. I've done a whole bunch of research on this. Now, granted, these things like an M4 competition, they sticker like in the mid to high 90s. These are not cheap cars by any stretch of the imagination, but these can still be had for basically sticker price, and in some cases actually under when I look at this. And when you look at used cars, those are a little bit more in line with kind of what you would expect under normal circumstances. I'm seeing plenty of like 2017, 2018 M3s for in the mid to high 50s, which, those cars are actually, they're quite nice. But then again, we're looking at a little bit different segment, right? We're looking at cars that kind of blend that sports sort of luxury sedan coupe kind of group. And it's just a different kind of car. But these are cars that are actually more in line with what you would really expect to see under normal circumstances. And then the same thing when you look at like Audi, say like an S7. I'm sitting here looking at some S7s, kind of the same sort of deal, right? They haven't gone up astronomically in price. And then even when you look at like some stuff from Mercedes, C63 AMGs, I've seen a few of those here, same kind of thing, right? You still got a fair number of cars on the used market, a fair number of cars that are new, and a little bit more in line with what you would expect the pricing to be under just normal circumstances without everything going crazy. So from an import perspective, if you are an import person, or if you like kind of that more of that luxury segment, you can still get a fairly decent deal on a car right now. Now, there are a few exceptions that I did find. Say, for example, if you like STIs, like the one I used to drive, those prices have gone up just a little bit for some reason. So STIs, go figure. They seem to have gone up. Also on the Supras. The Supra prices have either basically stayed the same or actually gone up in some circumstances. So those cars, while there is some inventory on those cars out there, so they're not incredibly difficult to find, now is really not the best time to buy really either one of those two. So really to sum it all up, yeah, this is definitely not a buyer's market. But there are a couple of cars out there where you can still get a somewhat decent deal. As I mentioned, you can get maybe a Mustang GT, Camaro SS or 1LE type car, a Scat Pack, certainly an RT, whether it's a Charger or a Challenger, might be some good ones out there. But then again, there are a whole lot of cars where it would probably be a big mistake to buy right now. As I mentioned, really any of the high-end Corvettes, certainly your HELLCATs, your ZL1s, stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff out there. Your HELLCAT Durangos, all the new ones, the super stock, all that kind of stuff that has just come out. You're going to pay ADM for a lot of that stuff. Some of the stuff that's even a couple of years older, as I mentioned, is still selling at sticker price or above. So steer clear of that stuff. So anyway, guys, just spreading a little bit of knowledge, just kind of what I've learned through some research and just talking to dealerships. Hopefully it helped you guys. And hopefully this car market will turn around and become more of a buyer's market here in the next few months, and we can get back to normal. So anyway, guys, it's been fun. I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racerx.